We now have a technology curriculum core map from kindergarten to 8th grade that includes word processing and keyboarding tasks. In the January 2017 Technology Integration Workshop, the integrators brought their student work, and the first task that they had was to look with each other and decide what kind of common student misconceptions they see in word processing tasks, and if those misconceptions were limited to certain grades and topics, or if they crossed grades and topics. If you use Microsoft Word or OpenOffice or some other word processors, there is a symbol. In Word, it's this backwards facing P, the paragraph mark. And what it does is it will show and hide formatting marks. So in this example, a space bar was pressed once between each word. And so you can see that with a little period in the middle of the sentence. Here, the return key was pressed, and here the tab key was pressed. So these features are very useful in explaining to students where they're making mistakes. We took a look at some samples, and some of the mistakes and common misconceptions that the teachers had noticed as they worked in smaller groups is pressing the space bar before beginning to type, pressing the space bar to align words, forgetting to use the space bar after punctuation marks. Then once students begin to learn about the tab key, they don't understand that you can set a single tab, so you'll see multiple tabs to align words, which is better than the space bar. You'll also see students pressing the space bar to center words, and again, once they learn to use the tab key, pressing tab to center a title. Oftentimes, students will press the space bar 5 times before starting a paragraph rather than setting a tab or pressing the tab key. A huge misconception continues to be 2 spaces after the period, and we talked about the fact that that is an old holdover from the time of typesetting and using keyboards with fonts that are fixed spacing. In our current work in technology, we have fonts that are proportional, so an I is a slimmer character. It takes less space than an uppercase T. And the computer adjusts with most fonts to have proportional spacing. So the rule is 1 period after a space or other punctuation marks. In this example, some of the mistakes were tidied up to allow us to focus on pressing the return key. Again, some students will press return at the end of every line, believing that that's how you get to the start of a new line of typing. It's not something that's very easy to see, especially if you're using Google Docs, but students will notice it if you have them highlight all the words and change the font to be a much smaller font like 6-point or 7-point, because the font is going to shrink, but that hard carriage return, the enter key, keeps all 3 lines on the same line that they were on. Again, another common misconception is needing a space before and after a punctuation mark.